There are so many stories in this region that are not only not told in Arabic, but even in English are glossed over because there's this perception, as you might know, that every story has to do with terrorism or counterterrorism or ISIS and I think there's so many good things that are happening and encouraging things, positive things, particularly amongst the youth, particularly in the realm of technology, that don't get covered. And I think maybe there's a responsibility, quite frankly, for people who have money and influence to focus and invest on those kinds of things. And, I would encourage youth in particular to kind of, not do what is expected or not to mimic or emulate what they've seen happen elsewhere, because the best way, I think, for perceptions to change around the world, but also within the region, because the youth can be very pessimistic, is to tell your own stories and to tell stories that resonate, that are true. And so I think maybe that's the gap. The way to do it is, it sounds a little bit cheesy, but start small and be brave. I was on a panel this morning talking about emerging video technologies, and again, that's kind of one of those buzzwords that can mean a lot of things. It can mean vertical video, it can mean VR and 3D and 360 and interactivity, and so I think what I wanted to focus on and what I found was really productive from that panel and some of the other panels involving kind of the emerging media landscape, if you will, is that nobody really knows what's going to happen, and that we're at a point where things are changing so quickly. Even the mere fact that, on Snapchat and Periscope and other platforms, you have vertical video actually very quickly gaining a lot of traction. And to me, it's all an indication that consumers are now dictating, how content is produced. To me, that's super exciting, because 5-10 years ago, let's say even 5 years ago, when I was hosting a show about social media and interactivity, there was a lot of skepticism, not just from inside the media business, but from audiences and from consumers in terms of, well, what is this really about? And, is this really the future? Is this authoritative? Is this trustworthy? It seems like a lot of those concerns still exist, but they're not at the forefront. What people are super excited about, especially here, and what I'm excited about, is kind of the technology aspect of everything and the unknown and the experimental aspect. So that's what's really exciting. And seeing all these startups and these young people who feel so kind of emboldened and galvanized, not just by the conference, but I think as much as maybe there's a social and political climate that might feel restrictive in the region, at least that's the perception, I should say. I think people don't give the youth here enough credit in terms of how savvy they are, how bold they're willing to be, and innovative.